Hi there, welcome to Raincross Farms Makery. For today's project, I want to show you a new technique, how to use Mod Podge to decoupage. We're going to do the iron-on method, but we are going to do a twist. We are going to use the flame method to finish it up. So I'm going to start with this cute little leaf pattern wooden cutout. I got this at the Dollar Tree, and you can see it's got these little slats, and it's a cute little autumn leaf. So what I did is I took this and I used some chalk paint, just a white color, and I painted it. I wanted to give it a nice white background because that will help with when I go to decoupage, and I'm going to decoupage with these pretty fall napkins. Okay, so to start with, I'm going to, once I've got it painted and dried, I'm going to use some Mod Podge. I'm using matte, but it's okay. You can use gloss also. That doesn't matter. So I'm just going to take this and I'm going to paint up my surface. Put a good amount, not super thin, not super thick. And I'm just going to paint all of these flat edges. This is a really easy and fun way to get some color and some patterns and on your projects and not have to be a complete artist. It gives your projects a little bit of depth when you have the ability to use some napkins to add to it. And there's so many beautiful napkins out there. I think the ones I'm using, I believe I got them at Hobby Lobby, but if you check the dollar store, the Dollar Tree, they have cute napkins from time to time. Any craft store, any gift store. I even have a garden nursery that they sell napkins. Okay, so I've got a layer of Mod Podge on that, and I'm going to dry it. So I'm going to get my little quick dry tool, and I'm going to dry up that Mod Podge. There is a technique where you can do decoupage and you lay the napkin down on the wet Mod Podge. It works okay, but I have trouble with the wrinkles that will form in it. And I don't really care for the wrinkles. I don't want to fight with the wrinkles. And this method works great to prevent those wrinkles in the first place. So I'm going to dry this up. Now, Mod Podge is basically just a glue. So we are going to use that glue to glue down our napkin. But we're not going to do it with wet Mod Podge. Make sure that's dry. Takes a second to dry it. You could just let it dry on its own too. This just speeds up the process. Okay, so we have dried Mod Podge. Now we're going to take our napkin, and we only want that very top layer. And these are probably 3-ply, which means there are three levels of tissue there. And they can kind of be tricky to pull apart. You want to make sure that you're removing two and you're left with just the top one. Okay, so here I've got one layer off. there's another layer there that I want to get rid of. And that can get really tricky to get off. So let me show you my trick. I take some tape. This is our placement tape. You can use painter's tape. You can use Scotch tape. And you take 2 little pieces of it. You put one in one corner on one side, one in the other corner, and then you pull them apart, and that helps you separate your layer. Hope that showed. So now I'm going to gently take this remaining layer off of my napkin. It's adhering pretty well, so I want to make sure I don't rip it. So that I'm left with just that single ply with the design on it. And you can throw that away, use it for another project. So here I have got my napkin, and I'm going to just kind of lay it down there. And remember, my Mod Podge is dry, so it's really not, it's not sticking yet. Okay, so I'm going to remove this. And I'm going to switch out to my heat pad because I'm going to iron this on. Okay, so I've got that smoothed out. Underneath is my wood surface. I'm going to take some parchment paper and I'm going to cover that up. Now this is to protect my iron because there are ink dyes in this tissue and I don't want to get that adhering to my iron. So I'm just using a little Cricut mini press. You can use a regular household iron, and you're just going to take it, and it's set on medium to high, and I'm just going to press over that wooden frame, wooden surface, and it is remelting that glue and attaching it to the tissue. And I'm not going to have any wrinkles. So I'm making sure that I'm getting it everywhere that wood is. And I'm trying to go in right up against those slats. I want to make sure it's adhered everywhere. Okay, and I'm going to test it. So here we go. So I'm going to turn it over and just make sure that it's not coming off. And it looks pretty good. It's not coming off my edges. So I have my tissue attached here. And I'm going to take a pair of scissors and I'm just going to trim a little bit off, get rid of some of that excess. This is kind of an important step. You don't want a whole lot of tissue because we are going to be using an open flame to finish this off. Because we've got all this excess tissue here that we don't want. Now, if I was doing this on a circle or a square or a rectangle that had nice straight sides, I'm going to show you how I would remove that tissue. So I've got all that. I'm just going to trash that. Ordinarily, I would take a sanding sponge and I would just go straight down, and that would clear off, that would finish off that edge. But this has so many twists and turns, and I'd never get that sanding block inside those little holes. So I'm going to do a different method. I am going to burn this tissue paper off. Okay, and I'm going to, I want you to be able to see this. So I'm going to actually dim the lights just a bit so that you can see that flame. Okay, so there we go. So I'm just going to light one of these little edges, and it should just completely burn if it all goes well. Okay, so watching it go. And if it puts itself out for whatever reason, it stops at the edge of that Mod Podge. So I've stopped over here. So I'm going to light that again. And it stopped here. Let's see if it turns that corner. There it goes. Okay, so it's got a little bit of ash, so I'm just going to take this and kind of remove that ash. Now you can see it didn't go inside those slats. So what I need to do is just kind of give it a little bit of help. So I'm going to take my craft knife and I'm just going to kind of trim that so it's got an edge to burn yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of take this like a torch, and I'm just going to kind of burn that by hand. It's such a narrow surface, I think it's not getting enough oxygen. I'm just going to burn that out of the middle. And voila! And I'm just going to take my little rag. If there's any spots that haven't burned, I'll go back to it. And get rid of that ash. And there you go. You have a beautiful surface. And let me turn the lights back on. And voila, there we go. Pretty, pretty. So that is the Mod Podge iron-on decoupage method, and I used the flame technique to basically trim around the edges, all those tight corners and whatnot. So I hope you learned a new technique. I hope you put it into practice. Let me know if you have. Show me some pictures of your finished projects. And I hope you'll follow us for some other fun crafting tutorials on Raincross Farms Makery. That's it for today. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.